The night was woven with silver threads. The stars above the valley of Elyndor shimmered like lanterns hung by ancient hands, and beneath them, an elf named Noorah walked alone, her cloak whispering over the moss. For 1,000 years, she had sung the songs of dawn and dusk, the same melody unchanged, carried by the wind. But tonight, her voice trembled, for she remembered a face that no longer walked among the living. A mortal man, Aedric of the North, the one she loved before time began. She had met him on the eve of war, when the world trembled under the banners of fire. Aedric was but a man, fragile as a morning leaf, and yet there was eternity in his eyes. He had laughed in the face of doom, and that laughter had pierced her immortal heart. "You are not meant to linger here," her kin had told her. "The lives of men are but sparks. You will burn alone when he fades." But love does not listen to wisdom. It listens only to the music of its own ruin. In the halls of Elyndor, Noorah kept a hidden chamber, a sanctuary of memory. There she guarded his sword, rusted and bound with ivy, and a single letter written in the language of men. She had never read it, for to read it would mean admitting he was truly gone. But tonight, the wind carried a whisper, her name, spoken with mortal breath, and her heart, still chained to the music of the past, awakened. "Aedric," she whispered into the dark. The forest answered, not with words, but with the sound of footsteps. The air shimmered. A figure stood beyond the trees, cloaked, motionless, haloed by moonlight. He bore the same presence, the same warmth, but this could not be. Mortals do not return from beyond the veil. "Who walks beneath my stars?" Noorah demanded, her voice breaking like glass. The figure stepped forward, and the world seemed to still. It was him, Aedric, unchanged, yet touched by a pale, otherworldly light. "I promised I would find you again," he said. Tears glimmered in Noorah's eyes. She reached for him, but her fingers passed through his chest like mist. He was not flesh. He was a memory bound to the world by love too strong to die. "You are not of this realm anymore," she whispered. "No," Aedric smiled gently, "but neither is your heart." She wanted to speak, to cry, to fall into him as she had centuries ago, but every word ached like a wound reopened. "Why now?" she asked. "Why return after all this silence?" Aedric's eyes darkened with sorrow. "Because the world is ending again, my love. The shadow stirs, and only your song can bind it once more." Noorah fell to her knees. "You ask me to sing again when I have forgotten the melody. Then remember me," Aedric whispered. "For love was the first song ever sung, and it was ours." His form began to fade, scattering like starlight into the wind. She reached out, desperate, but only silence remained. And in that silence her heart shattered, then burned anew, for she knew what she must do. The world had forgotten the song of creation, the melody that held light and darkness in balance. But Noorah had once sung it, long before memory, when the stars themselves were young. Now she would sing again, for him, for the world, for love. But deep within the mountains of the east, another had heard the same whisper. A dark spirit who had once loved her too, before she turned toward the light, and he was coming. If this story touched your heart, leave a rose in the comments so I know you were here. Subscribe for more tales of love and destiny from Middle-earth. The wind of the east carried the scent of ash and ruin. Across the broken mountains, a figure cloaked in black moved through the storm, his eyes burning like dying stars. He had once been called Elarion, the first of the fallen, a spirit born of starlight, who had loved Noorah before the shaping of the world. He had sung with her beneath the silver trees of Valenia when time was young and the sky was still being painted. But when she turned her song toward the light, he turned his toward dominion. For love, denied, can twist into shadow. In Elyndor, Noorah stood upon the cliffs of remembrance, her hair fluttering like moonlight. She felt him, that old familiar presence, like a wound reopening after ages of peace. "He returns," she whispered. and the stars, dimming one by one, seemed to nod in sorrow. She had known this day would come, for every love left unfinished calls back to its beginning. Aedric's echo had warned her, the shadow stirs. But she had not known the shadow would have a name or a heart. For nights without number, Noorah sang. Her voice wove through the forests, awakening old spirits and forgotten rivers. She sang the song of light, the melody that could seal the world's wounds and hold back the gathering dark. But her song drew Elarion nearer. He followed the sound like a lost soul chasing the memory of dawn. And when he found her, it was as though eternity itself held its breath. "You have not changed," he said, his voice echoing like thunder in a cathedral. "Nor have you," she answered softly. "Only your eyes are different, darker, lonelier. Why have you come, Elarion? To finish what began before time, to claim the heart that denied me." Noorah's gaze hardened. "That heart was never yours to claim." Elarion took a step forward. The ground trembled. "Then whose was it? The mortal? The flicker that burned and died?" At his words, the air grew cold. Even the stars above seemed to retreat. Noorah's eyes shimmered with both fury and pain. "He was a spark, but in his brief light I saw eternity. What you call weakness, I call truth." Elarion's rage faltered. His voice broke, quieter now. "You could have loved me once, before the dawn, before the world." "And I did," she whispered. "But love chained by pride is not love. It is hunger." The wind rose, howling between them like the cries of lost ages. Elarion's sorrow turned to fury. He lifted his hand. Shadows burst forth, swirling into a storm of flame and smoke. Noorah stood unflinching. She raised her arms and began to sing. Light bloomed from her fingertips, a radiant melody that pushed back the dark. The clash of song and shadow split the heavens. The ground cracked, the rivers glowed, the stars wept fire. In that chaos, Aedric's voice returned, faint but clear, echoing through her mind. "Noorah, remember what love is. It is not the power to destroy, but the will to forgive." Noorah's voice softened, turning sorrowful, not a battle cry, but a lullaby. The shadows faltered. Elarion staggered, clutching his chest as light seeped through the cracks of his armor. "Why do you weep for me?" he gasped. "Because I remember you," she said, "not as you are, but as you were, when you still believed in beauty." And for the first time in 1,000 years, Elarion fell to his knees. His form trembled, torn between darkness and light. "You loved me once," he whispered. "Before time began," she said, "and still a part of me does. But the light that heals can also unmake." Her song was binding not just his darkness, but his soul. He looked up at her, eyes wide with realization. "Noorah, if you finish the song, I will fade forever." Her voice trembled. The melody faltered. "If I stop, the world will fall." "Then let it," he whispered. "Let the stars die, if it means I can see you one last time." Tears streamed down her face. Her song wavered between love and duty, light and longing. The world hung in silence, waiting for her choice. If this story moved your heart, leave a rose in the comments so I know you were here. Subscribe for more tales of love, loss, and light in Middle-earth. The world was silent, the mountains held their breath, and even the stars dimmed their gaze, as if all of creation waited for one choice, one note, one heartbeat. Noorah stood over Elarion, the fallen shadow, his eyes glowing faintly like embers under snow. Her lips trembled, caught between the song that would save the world and the love that could destroy it. "If I sing, you will fade. If you don't," he replied softly, "all will fade, even you." Her tears shimmered like molten silver. "Why must love always end in sorrow?" Elarion smiled weakly. because sorrow is proof that love was real. Then softly, from the edge of the veil, a new voice joined hers. A voice she knew better than her own. Aedric. You do not stand alone, Noorah. The air shimmered, and the spirit of the mortal she had once loved appeared. Radiant, peaceful, surrounded by the light of countless stars. You both loved me, Aedric said gently, looking at Elarion. And because of that, there is still hope. Love was never meant to divide us, only to remind us that we belong to something eternal. Noorah fell silent. The light of her heart and the shadow of Elarion's soul began to blend, twisting together like dawn meeting night. Then sing with me, she said, and the three voices, one of light, one of shadow, and one of mortal warmth, rose into the heavens. The song of the beginning, lost since the making of the stars, returned to the world. Its melody healed what was broken. Rivers began to shimmer again, forests bloomed, and the stars rekindled their flame. But every creation demands a cost. The light grew blinding. Elarion looked at Noorah, his form unraveling into stardust. You have freed me, he said, and for that, I love you. Beyond time, beyond darkness, Noorah reached for him. Then wait for me, beyond the circles of the world. Always, he fading into the wind. When the brilliance faded, Aedric knelt beside her. You did it, he said softly. The balance is restored. But she shook her head. I did nothing. Love did everything. He smiled. Then rest, my heart. The song will live on in every dawn, every tear, every whispered prayer. As the first light of morning touched her face, Noorah looked toward the horizon. Will I see you again? She asked. Aedric placed a ghostly hand over her heart. You already do, every time it beats. And with that, he faded too, his spirit returning to the stars, where love is never lost, only transformed. Centuries later, the elves of Elyndor still speak of her, the one who sang the world whole. They say her song can still be heard when the night is silent and the stars burn bright. A melody that tells of two loves bound by eternity, of a heart that chose compassion over power, and of a woman who loved before time began. And if you ever find yourself beneath the same sky, listen closely, for somewhere beyond the veil of worlds, Noorah still sings. A song not of sorrow, but of promise. That love, once true, never dies. It only changes form. If this story touched your heart, leave a rose in the comments so I know you were here. Subscribe for more tales of love, loss, and light from the timeless lands of Middle-earth.